closer look at the pacing chart for the high school U.S. history program so that for either social studies program, you can see what the pacing chart consists of and how it should be used. As mentioned in the introductory videos, one of the things that you get in a pacing chart is just an image and a name of each of the items that comes in the program. And if you come here to the program materials checklist, let's say you got a 30 student version, you can see that you should have one pacing chart, one teacher CD, 30 student course notes, 30 activity books, 30 color cubes, and 6 of each of the 8 Amerimatch card decks. And you can put a check in this box on your printed program to make sure you've got everything and you've identified everything correctly. On this page, you can see a description for each of the products and basic information about how to use those products. Now, there is a complete separate video for the DynaNotes Teacher CD that comes with each program. There's also 3 separate videos that describe student course notes use in great detail. The student activity books and the Excel color cube templates were discussed in the initial videos about these social studies programs. And finally, there are separate videos about how to use the Amerimatch card decks, but this information is in print on the back of your pacing chart as an easy to find reminder. What I'd like to show you now is this section on the right called Before You Begin. Of course, it begins with using the program materials checklist to locate all items, but after that, it focuses on what to do with the guts of the pacing chart, beginning with reviewing the pacing chart prior to each day's activities. Familiarize yourself with the content, instructions, and answers for each activity. Review and collect additional materials needed for the activities as noted in the pacing chart. If we go back to activity number 1, you can see that there's an asterisk and then italicized text. Whenever you see this at the end of an activity, it means you're going to need to gather up some additional materials that did not come with the program. In this case, a cooperative group activity requires scissors, glue, and either markers, pens, pencils, or crayons, as well as internet access so that students can do some additional research. Provide each student with his or her own DynaNotes U.S. History student course notes after the pre-test is completed. During whole group read review activities, ask students the questions as indicated by the yellow question mark symbol, or choose a different question in order to generate class discussion. So let's take a closer look at what the different lessons in the pacing chart actually look like. You can see that the high school U.S. history program has been divided into 30 lessons. The grade 8 social studies program has 20. Furthermore, the program is divided into different time frames or eras. For example, lessons 4, 5, 6, and 7 are identified with the progressive era and rise of world power. Next in the pacing chart, the topics are identified that are covered within each lesson. For example, lesson 4 covers American expansionism and the Spanish-American War. One thing you'll notice is that the last lesson in any time frame is typically a summary. So for the topic of lesson 7, it simply says summary of progressive era and rise of world power. Very occasionally, you'll see an additional topic introduced in the last lesson, but we try not to do that. The next row in the pacing chart describes the whole group activity block. It's assumed that the teacher will spend some time in a whole group discussion type of format at the beginning of each lesson. The next row is the cooperative group activity block, and finally the independent activity block. Here we are in Lesson 4, American Expansionism and the Spanish-American War. And the whole group activity has in bold Student Notes and Teacher CD. The boldface type indicates what materials are needed that come with the program. The assignment says, read, review, American Expansionism and Spanish-American War section aloud. The term read, review is intentionally vague. Different teachers are going to choose different approaches that work best for them and their students. For one teacher, the best answer may be to take advantage of his or her excellent storytelling skills and use a college lecture style. Another teacher may choose to let students silently read over the section of content, or take turns reading aloud as a group the definitions and the examples that are given in the DynaNotes student course notes. Whatever approach is chosen, it's important that a foundation of knowledge and ideas are set before launching into the group questions and discussion, as well as the activities to come. When we take a closer look at the teacher CD, you'll see the tools available in it to help you do this. Next, there's a question as indicated by the yellow question mark symbol. It says, the U.S. sent a battleship to Panama to ensure the success of its revolution against the Colombian government, which had refused to sign a land lease treaty with the U.S. for the construction of the Panama Canal. The revolution was a quick success. The U.S. recognized the new nation of Panama, and the Panamanian government signed the needed treaty. Was this event a departure from America's roots or a continuation of her history? So hopefully that or a similar question can help you and your students begin to think about American expansionism. Next, Activity 6. Whenever you see a numbered activity, that means the activity is found in the student activity book. The name of Activity 6 is Expansionism and Causes of the Spanish-American War, and the assignment in the pacing chart says to complete this activity in student pairs. Here is the answer key for Activity 6, the two-page activity found on pages 15 and 16. And then the independent activity is Activity 7, once again relying on the student activity book. And you'll see that pattern where usually the cooperative group activity and the independent activity are simply assignments out of the activity book. The whole group activity almost always involves reviewing the content that's in the notes and then launching into a discussion question. However, lesson number 7, being the last activity for that time frame, is a summary, and this is where, instead of reviewing the notes, the teacher CD will be used to play one of the computer games as a class. For the cooperative group activity, the students will play one of the games with the Amerimatch card deck for that era. And finally, the independent activity is typically a writing activity. It may come as a surprise to you to see that there is an answer key given for the writing activity, but it is here for an important reason. Synthesizing ideas into a unique essay is a complex task for students to undertake. Seeing an example of what an A-quality essay or letter would be can really help a lot of students better understand the assignment. We strongly encourage teachers to let students look at the example from the answer key before they attempt their first writing assignment. It can make a big difference to a lot of students and help them get off on a faster, more confident start to their work. The DynaNotes eligible TEKS Social Studies programs are quite thorough, so we want to give you some ideas on how to fast forward through the program when you don't quite have enough time to get through it all. One thing you can do is to skip the pre-test. These EOC or star-like questions that are on pages 1 through 4 may not be necessary if you already have a benchmark for your students. Another time-saving idea is to semi-skip certain activities. For example, if you look at one of the activities and you think, boy, we just need to go ahead and move through this more quickly, instead of assigning it for your students, you could review the answer key with your students as a group. Or you could assign some of your students to work the odd problems of a particular activity, other students to do the even problems, and then review all of them as a class. The answer key will give you a lot of ideas on how you can speed things up, including peer checking and self-checking. Pre-researching materials that will help your student and making those easy to click into or already printed out so that they're available easily can help a lot of your students move more quickly and confidently through the assignments.